The next morning, Raymond's phone rang again. Unknown number. He hesitated before answering. Hello. A soft pause followed. Hi, Raymond, it's Stella. Her voice carried familiarity, not forced, not distant. Comfortable. Like someone stepping back into a room she had once occupied without needing permission. Raymond leaned back slightly. Stella. Memories surfaced quickly: birthday gatherings, family charity events, summer visits to their estate years ago. She had always been present in the background of his life, poised, articulate, belonging effortlessly to the world he was born into. I just got back into Lagos, she continued. Auntie said I should reconnect. There it was. The unspoken explanation. Raymond smiled politely, though tension tightened beneath it. It's been a long time, he replied. Yes, she laughed lightly. And I hear you're now helping expand the family business globally. Congratulations. Her tone carried admiration, subtle, intentional. They spoke for a few minutes. Stella asked about his work, his recent plans, even the overseas assignments he had just postponed. You must have been looking forward to it, she said. Raymond paused before responding. Things changed. Stella didn't press. Instead, she shifted gently. Well, she said warmly, since I'm back, maybe we could catch up properly sometime. It sounded casual. But Raymond understood what it wasn't. This wasn't just a reunion. It was an introduction. Again. Janet tried to focus on the evening. Raymond had invited her over. The atmosphere was calm. Familiar. Almost reassuring. But her mind kept drifting back to the night before. That call. The way Raymond's expression had changed when his phone rang during dinner. The unfamiliar number. The slight pause before he answered. And then. My name is Stella. Since that moment, something inside Janet had refused to settle. She remembered how Raymond had quickly ended the call, how he had returned to their conversation with a smile that felt just a little too careful. Now, as she sat across from him again, she studied him quietly. Is everything all right? She asked gently. Raymond nodded. But Janet wasn't convinced. She wasn't suspicious by nature. Yet something about the timing unsettled her, coming right after he had decided not to travel, right after family pressure had begun to build. The name lingered in her mind. Stella. Not work-related. Not business. Personal. And unknown. Janet forced a soft smile, but beneath it, a quiet worry began to grow. Love was supposed to feel secure. But now, for the first time, it felt like something might be quietly slipping beyond her reach. Stella did not arrive at Raymond's office by accident. She arrived prepared. Her outfit was carefully chosen, elegant without being loud. A fitted, tailored dress that spoke of quiet class. Her makeup was flawless yet understated, enhancing rather than announcing her beauty. Every detail, from her perfume to her posture, seemed designed to communicate ease, belonging, and refinement. She didn't look like someone entering a new space. She looked like someone returning to one. Heads turned as she walked through the reception. Not because she demanded attention, but because she naturally drew it. When she stepped into Raymond's office, she paused briefly at the door before smiling. Hi, Raymond. Raymond looked up. For a moment, surprise crossed his face before professionalism replaced it. Stella, he said, rising slowly. This is Unexpected. She laughed softly. I thought I should stop by instead of just calling. Her voice carried warmth, familiar enough to feel comfortable, distant enough to remain intriguing. I didn't realize you were back in Lagos, Raymond said. Just recently, she replied, settling gracefully into the chair opposite him. Auntie mentioned you might need a familiar face around. There was nothing forceful in her tone. But the meaning lingered. They spoke of old times, shared childhood memories, family gatherings, the predictable paths life had taken. Then the conversation shifted. I heard about the overseas assignment, Stella said lightly. That must have been a big step. Raymond nodded. It was. And yet, she continued gently, you didn't go. Raymond studied her. I had my reasons. Stella didn't challenge him. Instead, she smiled. Sometimes, she said softly, we just need clarity before making life-changing decisions. The statement sounded supportive. But beneath it was something else. Understanding. Alignment. A quiet suggestion that she belonged in the world he was meant to lead. When she finally rose to leave, the air in the room felt different. Not tense. But shifted. As though something subtle had been introduced. Something polished, patient, and waiting. And outside, unseen. The plan was unfolding exactly as intended. From the glass wall of his office upstairs, Ode watched. He had seen Stella arrive. He had seen the reception staff straighten instinctively. Seen the subtle shift in energy. Seen how easily she moved through the building, like someone who belonged. And he had seen her walk into Raymond's office. Ade didn't move. He simply observed. This wasn't about jealousy. It wasn't even about Janet anymore. To Ade, this was about structure. Order. Continuity. He had spent years helping to build the family's business empire alongside Raymond, both of them shaped by discipline, guided by ambition, refined through their training at Cardiff Business School. They had been raised to understand one thing. Emotion must never outrun responsibility. But lately, Raymond had begun to blur that line. Aborting the overseas trip had not just been a personal decision, it had been a disruption. A signal that sentiment could override strategy. And that, to Ode, was dangerous. He didn't hate Janet. He simply believed she represented unpredictability. And unpredictability had no place in legacy. Stella, on the other hand. She was stability. Familiar background. Shared values. Social alignment. A reminder of who Raymond was supposed to be. Ade leaned back in his chair. He didn't need confrontation. He didn't need persuasion. Time would do the work. Because if Raymond was reminded of the life he came from, he might eventually release the one he had chosen. And if he didn't, Ade was prepared to ensure that he did. That night, Raymond and Janet sat across from each other at dinner. It was meant to be a calm evening, a chance to talk through everything. The aborted trip. The family pressure. The uncertainty ahead. Janet wanted clarity. Raymond wanted peace. They spoke quietly about his decision not to travel. About what it meant for his role in the family business. About what the future might now look like. For a moment, the world felt steady again. Then Raymond's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Janet's eyes drifted toward the table. Unknown number. Raymond hesitated before finally answering. Hello. A familiar voice responded. Hi, Raymond, it's Stella. Raymond straightened slightly. Yes. I was wondering if we could have dinner tomorrow, Stella continued smoothly. Just to catch up properly. Raymond was momentarily confounded. Dinner? He glanced up. Janet was watching him. Not speaking. Just observing the tone of his voice, the shift in his expression, the pause before his response. Something tightened inside her. Raymond ended the call shortly after. But the silence that followed felt different. Because now, Janet wasn't just hearing about pressure. She was seeing it. And for the first time, worry quietly settled into her heart. Raymond stood by the window, looking out at the city lights, but seeing none of it. His phone lay on the table behind him. Stella's message still glowed on the screen. Dinner tomorrow. Simple. Polite. But heavy with implication. Raymond knew this wasn't about catching up. It was positioning. A reminder of the world he came from, the structured, polished world where expectations were inherited, not negotiated. He picked up the phone, stared at the message again, then dropped it back on the table. Ignoring it would send a signal. Accepting it would send another. And either choice would ripple outward, to Ode, to his mother, and to Janet. For the first time, Raymond felt the true weight of his decision at the airport. Choosing Janet had not ended anything. It had only begun something else. He ran his hand through his hair, conflicted. Stella represented ease, understanding, alignment. Janet represented struggle, change, choice. Raymond exhaled slowly. Love had seemed simple when it was just about emotion. Now, it was about consequence. And somewhere in that silence, he realized. The battle was no longer outside. It was within. Later that evening, Stella sat comfortably in Raymond's mother's living room. Her posture was relaxed, but her tone was purposeful. I spoke with him, she said. And I've reached out again. Raymond's mother listened quietly, her expression composed. Good, she replied. Familiarity takes time to rebuild. Stella nodded. He's polite, she continued. But careful. A faint smile appeared on the older woman's face. He will be, she said calmly. Raymond has always been thoughtful. He doesn't rush decisions. Stella hesitated slightly. She's still very present in his life, she added. Raymond's mother leaned forward. That is why you must be patient, she said reassuringly. You are not here to compete emotionally. You are here to remind him who he is. Stella absorbed the words. You belong in his world, the mother continued softly. Shared values. Shared background. Shared understanding. There was no anger in her tone. Only conviction. Don't force anything, she advised. Just be present. Stella nodded again. Encouraged. Motivated. Because this was no longer a simple reconnection. It was a quiet mission. When choices stop being simple, love becomes a test. In part 7,